I listen to Prabhupada's lectures on Danipedia consecutively, and when I hear something that really, inspiring, I stop the lecture and I go to the transcript, and then I copy and paste that particular section and send it to myself as an email, so I could, have it for further meditation. And then, of course, I use them when I'm talking with the devotees or in a class. So this is an excerpt from a lecture, the question and answer session. Prabhupada gave a lecture on the second canto before it had come out in 1969 in New York City. So at the end of the lecture, it was about Sukadeva Goswami instructing Maharaj Pariksit. So at the end of the lecture, the devotee asked Prabhupada, he said, Prabhupada, Maharaj Pariksit was a great devotee of Krishna from his birth. So was he actually in need of these talks by Sukadeva? Or was that for the benefit of others? Good question. So Prabhupada said, yes, you should never think that you have become very stalwart. You do not need any spiritual master's instruction. Don't think that. Then you are spoiled. You should always think that you are nothing. Even you are very much advanced. Just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, my spiritual master saw me a great fool. So we should remain always a fool. We should never think that we have advanced. Then we can advance. He says, as soon as we think, oh, I have advanced now, nobody has to instruct me, Prabhupada goes, that is not good. Then a devotee says, but he made a comment that doesn't make sense. Wasn't that the case with Arjuna? That doesn't seem relevant. But anyway, Prabhupada continued. We should always be prepared to gain instruction from the authorities. We should never think that we have become perfect, even if you are perfect. And then he quotes from the Shashashakam, Trinadapi Sunichana Tador Api Sahishnuna. One should be very humble, meek, and always think that I am nothing. Just like the author of Chaitanya Charitamrita, such a great stalwart man, such a great devotee. Nobody has produced such literature as Chaitanya Charitamrita. He is presenting himself that I am lower than the worm in the stool. Purushe kite haite muine se lagista. Puris means stool, and kita means worm. So, I am lower than the worm in the stool. Anyone who takes my name, all his pious activities immediately become lost. In this way, he is presenting himself. That does not mean that he's actually that way. He's actually so, but that is the attitude of a devotee. He's always very meek and humble. And the opposite side, I am God, now finish all business. So Maya is very strong. She's always enticing. Oh, you are so great, so big. You have nothing to learn. That is Maya's instruction. But we should always be always very humble, meek, and we should know always that what I know, I don't know anything. The knowledge is unlimited. God is unlimited, and my position is very minute, fractional, infinitesimal. What I can accommodate. Then he quotes, Gopi Bharta Padakamalayur Dasudas Anudas. We shall always try to remain servant of the servant of the servant of the servant of the, and then he says 100 times servant. Then it will be all right. The more you become humble, meek, the more you advance. That is real advancement. And he says, material life means we're always puffed up. Majority of persons, they'll say, oh, what is God? The scientists, as soon as you say anything about God, any foundation you approach, sir, can you give us some money for spreading this Krishna consciousness? And they go, no, what is this? So Prabhupada says, they have practically forgotten what is God. Then he digresses a little. He says, so anyway, we don't want many men. If there is one man to understand about this science of God, Krishna consciousness, that is sufficient. He can deliver many men. Chant always Hare Krishna, remain humble, meek, pray to Krishna, please save me, then it is very nice. Nectar, huh? I'll read one more. That's kind of along these same lines. This is from the first morning walk that was recorded. And so devotees were asking Prabhupada. Prabhupada asked them, so I think he asked, who was it? Malati. Yeah. Are you chanting 16 rounds? And she said, well, sometimes, Prabhupada. And Prabhupada, why? He says, sometimes we just don't get it together to do it. And so Prabhupada made the point it requires practice. And he said that, I think I got it here. No? It's coming. Here we go. Yeah. And Prabhupada made the point that the determination comes from being brahmachari, being celibate. That's how you develop determination. But then he went on to say that it's difficult in the Kali Yuga for people to perform austerities. So he sort of, towards the end of that section of the walk, he concludes by, well, I'll read it a little bit, he says here. So the process recommended, they're very valuable, referring to brahmacharya and like that, but it says, but it's not possible to follow them all in this present age because everything is reducing. So our method is to pray to Krishna to give us necessary strength, that's all. Otherwise, by regular practice for this age, it's very difficult, unfavorable. First thing is memory is very short. We cannot remember. Life is very short. And at the same time, so much disturbed by anxieties, disease, natural disturbances. So short life that is also disturbed by disease, lamentation. And he goes on, he says, so life is short, so much disturbed, so how it is possible? This is the part I liked. Prabhupada says, therefore this one practice, chanting Hare Krishna and hearing, that is very nice. And here Prabhupada gives like some insight to the mood that we should have, when in chanting, approaching chanting, says, and praying to Krishna, please give me strength. O energy of Krishna, O Krishna, I am fallen. I have no strength. Please accept me. That's all. I have no qualification. I am frail. I am trying, but I am failing. And Prabhupada says, all these appeals should be made. And Krishna is all-powerful. He can do anything. Even if we do not perform, and he doesn't say it, but up to this proper standard. Even if we do not perform, trying our best, if we fail, Krishna will help us. Beautiful analogies. Just like a child tries his best, but he falls down. The mother takes up, all right, come on, walk, like that. So we just have to try, and Krishna will help. And maybe I'll just read one more, and then. This is an excerpt from a lecture, probably was 1968, but Prabhupada was talking about how you can't be a loser. Anybody who attempts to practice Krishna consciousness, there's no question of being a loser because whatever service you do, that's recorded, and you're gonna you made some advancement, and if you leave, you take up where you left off. But then he goes on towards the end of this lecture. He makes this so referring to the person who isn't able to stick with it. He says, so he's not a loser. One injection of Krishna consciousness will make him someday perfect in Krishna consciousness, and he's sure to go back home, back to Godhead. So here it comes. So try to spread this Krishna consciousness movement. This is your sadhana, execution of what he's referring to the spreading of the Krishna consciousness movement as sadhana, which means practice. So we tend to sometimes think of sadhana as chanting, of course, which it is, or reading. But Prabhupada's saying here, try to spread the Krishna consciousness movement. This is your sadhana. This is part of our practice. Execution of austerity, penance, because you have to meet so many opposing elements. You have to fight with them. That is tapasya. You are tolerating so many insults, so much botheration, so much inconvenience, personal discomfort, everything sacrificed. But it will not go in vain. Rest assured, it will not go in vain. Krishna will, reward you sufficiently. So go on executing this Krishna consciousness. So, as I said, I really wasn't expecting to, be received like this, but it's very nice to be here. I think you're all an inspiration to, at least me, I don't know about other devotees, but I'm really inspired by all of, this whole project, what's going on here. I think it's, really wonderful, especially the way you're, distributing Prabhupada's books. And it's not just, Mahotsa is doing great, but I know that so many of other devotees have been infected by his enthusiasm and inspiration, and they're also doing lots of books. I'm on your WhatsApp chat there, and every day I'm seeing all the pictures of all the devotees that are distributing books. So it's really wonderful. And I don't know, I wish I had some great words of wisdom to share with everybody. I shared some of what Prabhupada had to say here. Let me think if I can come up with something. Well, one thought that comes to mind, Prabhupada used to use that example of if you take an iron rod and you stick it in the fire and you leave it in the fire, it becomes red hot and then it acts like fire. So I think the analogy is that, we're trying to dedicate our lives to the Krishna consciousness, to serving the spiritual master. So just like that iron rod becomes fireized, our whole life becomes spiritualized, It's just, we have to just make that decision. I'm going to dedicate this life to the mission, to serving the spiritual master, serving the parampara, disciple succession. That's sticking. That's the equivalent of sticking the iron rod in the fire and then just leaving it in there. Just stick with it. Make that decision and then follow through. Keep doing it, and our whole life becomes spiritualized. There's that verse, I think it's in the first canto, 5th chapter, someplace, Narada Muni's preaching to Vyasadeva. He says, "O good soul, does not a thing applied therapeutically cure a disease which was caused by the very same thing?" So, we're in material life, but if we take our personality, whatever we're like, it doesn't make a difference. But as long as we, make that decision to dedicate our energy, our time, whatever we have, dedicate it in the service of Krishna, then the whole life becomes transformed. It becomes, just like that iron rod. Somebody could say, "Well, that's not fire." Prabhupada in one lecture said, "Well, touch it," So, somebody said, "That's not spiritual." You guys, no, it's your life becomes spiritualized as a result of engaging in devotional service, committing, dedicating, and just following through on it. So I'll stop there. I'll quick around my head. As I said, I wasn't really prepared to say anything, but hopefully I haven't. Before I put my proverbial foot in my mouth, I'll stop. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Jai. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Anybody else have anything you'd like to say? Maharaj, you want to?
Bhrgupati Prabhu ki
Jai. I hope I didn't disappoint. Really. Well, I could read you one more nectar thing while we're here. I don't have my bags with me, but I'll read this. Just it's interesting. Back years ago, I noticed that Prabhupada made a particular point in a lot of lectures, and it just kept coming up. And it was the point about how devotional service begins with the tongue, and tasting. And he would always say, but he'd say each time he'd say it slightly differently. The tongue has two functions: one is tasting, one is vibrating. So if you just make a commitment or a vow that you only chant Hare Krishna, talk about Krishna, preach about Krishna, and only take prasadam, then just by those two things your life would become perfect. So there's about 50 different lectures where Prabhupada makes that same point, saying that, but just saying it slightly different each time. I'll read you one of them, which is kind of a favorite of mine. This is from an excerpt from a lecture Prabhupada gave in Denver in 1976. He said, in another place it is said, Sevan mukhi jivaro swayameva sparatira. God realization becomes by keeping the tongue engaged in the service of the Lord. Sevan mukhi jivaro. The tongue has to be first of all engaged, not the hands and legs. I have to serve Krishna, so yes, I'm ready. I'm expanding my hands. I'm going there. But Shastra says, no, no, no. Not your hands and legs, but your tongue. This is the one. First of all, engage your tongue. Prabhupada goes, this is astonishing. How can I serve with tongue? If I have to serve, I've got my hands and my legs, my eyes. No, Shastra says tongue. This is very peculiar. Sevan mukhi jivado swayameva spadatira. If you engage your tongue, and then he digresses, he says, how to engage my tongue? What is the business of my tongue? Two businesses only, to taste or eat and chant. Chant Hare Krishna with tongue and take Krishna prasadam. You will conquer Krishna. That is the program. So, as I said, it repeatedly comes up in lectures. You hear Prabhupada, and it's a very kind of an unusual point. Like Prabhupada himself, in many lectures, would say something, the equivalent to that. This is peculiar, or this is awkward, or it's very astonishing, because people aren't used to thinking of what does engaging the tongue have to do with spiritual life. But that's the point Prabhupada's making here. So, and he made it so many times. I actually, like I did with this, I kind of went through the Vedabase. There was no Vanipedia at the time, and I found all the different things, and I printed them out, and I made a little notebook for myself. I titled it Sevan Mukhi Jivado, with a picture of Prabhupada. I'll show it to you later on. But yeah, it's very simple. It's super basic, but it's powerful. I mean, these last couple of days, actually, I just got back from a Sankirtan trip yesterday. We had a 6-hour drive. We drove down from the Bay Area all the way to Los Angeles. So I decided, rather than just space out and look at the scenery, I'll chant. So I just chanted the whole way down. And it was very, you get absorbed. Sometimes I think, Prabhupada did give us 16 rounds to chant, but that was a concession. That's like the minimum, right? I mean, as the story goes, Prabhupada initially asked for 64 rounds, and the devotees came back and said, I can't do it, Prabhupada. Yeah. And he said, okay, 32. And they came back and said he couldn't do that. And then Prabhupada said, okay, 16, but no less. On other occasions, though, Prabhupada would make the point that, and this one lecture he said in Vrindavan, he said 25 is the lowest, and some devotees, they're chanting 64, 120. He said they're not sleeping and eating very nicely. So in other words, Prabhupada didn't want to overwhelm us, I guess, but chanting more is good. Prabhupada, he said, Prabhupada said, once Tamal Krishna Maharaj tried to get Prabhupada to say that on Ekadasi today, actually, it's mandatory to chant 25 rounds, but Prabhupada said, we are 16 rounds, but, he did acknowledge that the more devotees are chanting, the better. So that's I remember when I first joined, everybody always was walking around with a hand in the bead bag, all day long. It was just, it was very common to see devotees, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, walking around the temple doing this or whatever, Hare Krishna was on their lips. So it's a good program, and today on the airplane, same thing. Rather than just kind of look out the window and look at the whatever, I decided, what, I'm going to just, it's difficult to do anything on the airplane for me, but I'm going to do it. I'm just going to try to keep, chant. And I was able to chant 64 rounds, today and yesterday, and it feels like, I feel better, I'm going to try to keep doing, not with a vow, but, just continue, increase the chanting. I think it's a good way to get more absorbed in, Krishna consciousness. Okay, anyway, thank you very much. Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Good.